You're watching Wanted with me, Jonathan. Ever so often in this crime special, we have seen how one super cop managed to follow up on a lead and crack a sensational case. But have you ever wondered how perfectly they can commit a crime if they were to work on the other side of the law? Here is one such story from Kalaburgi. Take a look to know what we are talking about. Kalaburgi witnessed one of the most peculiar murder cases in recent times. The man who was murdered and the killers had no connection with each other. So in all fairness, it won't be wrong to say a man was sacrificed for personal gain. And we say sacrifice because a quack was involved. When you put a quack, a sacrifice and a murder for personal gain, you know black magic is involved. But before we tell you more about this story, let us introduce the man who was murdered. This is the man whose body was found by the cops on the 7th of December. He was found dead near a highway in Hassan. The cops had been alerted about a murder that had come to the spot to investigate. A lot of commotion had already started brewing near the crime scene. When the cops arrived, they dispersed the crowd so they won't miss out on crucial evidence. But what the cops did not know was that they were going to find evidence that was going to mislead them. Whoever had come to the crime was even better than a professional killer who knows how to cover his tracks. When the cops initially came to inspect the crime scene, they were shocked. The man had been bludgeoned to death. The man's face had also been burnt. There were no IDs or no evidence that could help the cops. They had already reached the dead end. Their forensic team found nothing. The dog squad found nothing. So how were the cops going to crack the case? Just when the cops were looking at the crime scene and searching for evidence, they found something on the body of the deceased. The deceased's hand had the names of 4 people written on it. That was strange. The names were not tattooed on the arms. Instead, they looked like they were written with a pen. The cops had no clues to follow. They thought this could be the lead they were looking for. The cops observed that the names written on the hands were that of Lakshmi Bhai, Tippanna, Bhima, Prabhu. This was the only actionable piece of evidence that the cops had. They suspected that the 4 people whose names were written on the victim's hands were the killers. They thought the victim must have written their names on his hand to incriminate them, though they weren't sure how the man could have pulled it off just before he got killed. The only way to find out was to find the 4 people, and soon enough the cops found out that the 4 of them belonged to the same family. The family of 4 resided in a village in Hassan. The cops called all 4 of them to the police station. The cops showed them the picture of the deceased. The family looked clueless. They did not understand what the cops were trying to accomplish. The cops thought the family was trying to act innocent. So they tried to misguide them and see if they could catch them on the wrong foot. But the family genuinely did not know about the man or the murder. The cops weren't willing to let go of the family so easily. They traced their phones, checked their call records, and asked for their alibis. When the cops were certain that the family was not involved in the murder, they let them go.
The victim kadali 4 ಹೆಸರು ಇತ್ತು. ಸೊ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ನಮಗೆ ಕೂಡ ಆ ಥರ ಸಂಶಯ ಬಂದಿದೆ. ಬಹುಶಃ ಅವರು ಮಾಡಿದರಂತೆ. ವಿಕ್ಟಿಮ್ ಸತ್ತುವ ಮುಂಚೆ ಯಾವುದು ಪೆನ್ ತೊಗೊಂಡು ಅವ್ರ ಕೈನಲ್ಲಿ ಇದು 4 ಹೆಸರು ಬರ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರಂತೆ. ಆವಾಗಿಂದ ನಾವು ವಿಚಾರ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ. ನಾವು ಈ 4 ಸಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ನಾವು ಸ್ಟೇಷನ್ಗೆ ಕರೆಸಿ ಎನ್ಕ್ವೈರಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಬಟ್ ಯಾವುದೂ ಎವಿಡೆನ್ಸ್ ಸಿಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಅವ್ರ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಮಾಹಿತಿ ನಾವು ಕಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಆಯಿತು, ಅವರು ಮರ್ಡರ್ ಅವರು ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ, ಅವರು ಮಾಡಿಸಿಲ್ಲ, ಆದರೆ ಯಾಕೆ ಅವ್ರ ಹೆಸರು ಈ ಕಾಯಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಬೇರೆ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಬರ್ಸ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ.
The cops had reached a dead end again. By now, they knew one thing: the killers had tried to mislead them. They knew the family had been cleared of any suspicion. The they still suspected that the family must be involved in some way or the other. They let the case cool off for a few days so they could start investigating with a fresh perspective. And when they divided into the case again, they took it up as a challenge. Everyone in the Hassan rural police station limits wanted to know who the killer was. They all worked day and night to find out who the man was. They sent out notices to all the surrounding police stations to see if there was a missing complaint. The cops were growing impatient, but they had not found any leads. The identity of the victim was still unknown. Soon this had become the most challenging murder mystery ever. Every cop had their own theory, but none of their theories could predict what had actually happened. That is when the superintendent of police ran his mind on the case. He was convinced that the family had something to do with the case. He called for them again. When they arrived at the police station, the cops asked them if they had any enmity with anyone. They wanted to know if there was somebody who could incriminate the family for personal gain. And that is when the family told the cops about a land dispute. Lakshmi Bai and a sibling were having a property dispute. The dispute was over a 10-acre plot. The two families had become sworn enemies after the case had gone to court. For years, the two families had been trying to pip each other to stake claim to their ancestral property. Now the cops suspected that the other party that was in dispute with Lakshmi Bai may have tried to incriminate them. They found that Lakshmi Bai's sister was Shambai. Lakshmi Bai and her sister had stopped talking many years back, but Lakshmi Bai still had her sister's phone number. The cops asked her for the number and let the family go. Now the cops did not directly question Shambai's family. Instead, they watched Shambai and her family for a few days. They wanted to be sure that they got the killer instead of giving them a chance to escape without any evidence. Once the family was convinced that Shambai and her family had been talking to several agents to help them win the case, they locked in on them. The cops called them to the police station. Shambai told the cops that she had been trying her best to win the case, but she had not committed murder. She did not even know who the victim was. They were almost certain that the man had been sacrificed for a larger gain. They finished the victim's last rites as per the legal procedure. This was a big loss for the cops. They wanted to crack the case before they finished the last rites. They wanted to inform the victim's family and ensure they got justice. But they could still accomplish the latter, and this was their aim now. All the cops came for a briefing again. They made an evidence board. They repeated all the scenarios, but they were not convinced that Shambai had nothing to do with the murder. They called her back to the police station. They asked her if she had paid anyone to help her case. That is when Shambai thought really hard and remembered that she had struck a deal with a cop. Shambai paid a cop named Gurappa 50,000 rupees to help her win the case.
ಹೋಲ ಸಲುವಾಗಿ ಡಿಸ್ಪ್ಯೂಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಬಹಳ ವರ್ಷ ಹಿಂದೆಯಿಂದ ಡಿಸ್ಪ್ಯೂಟ್ ಇತ್ತು ಮತ್ತು ಡಿಸ್ಪ್ಯೂಟ್ ಇನ್ನೂ ನಡೀತಾ ಇದೆ. ಸೊ ಅದು ಮಾಹಿತಿ ಬಂದ ನಂತರ ಮತ್ತು ನಾವು ಚೆಕ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ ಯಾರ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಇದು ಹೋಲ ಡಿಸ್ಪ್ಯೂಟ್ ಇದೆ. ಸೊ ಫೈನಲಿ ವಿ ವೆನ್ ಡೀಪ್ ಮತ್ತು ನಮಗೆ ಇನ್ನೂ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಮಾಹಿತಿ ಬಂದಿದೆ ದಟ್ ಒಬ್ಬ ಗುರುಪ್ಪ ಅವನು ಫಾರ್ಮರ್ ಹೆಡ್ ಕಾನ್ಸ್ಟೇಬಲ್ ರಿಟೈರ್ಡ್ ಹೆಡ್ ಕಾನ್ಸ್ಟೇಬಲ್ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ. ಅವನು ಈ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಡಿಸ್ಪ್ಯೂಟ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಅವನು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟೆಡ್ ಬಂದ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾನೆ. ಅವನು ಮತ್ತು ಒಂದು ಪಾರ್ಟಿಗೆ ಅವನು ಸಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದಾನೆ, ಒಂದು ಪಾರ್ಟಿ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಅವನು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಹಾಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದಾನೆ.
Gurappa was to get another 50,000 rupees if she did win the case. But Gurappa had retired by now. There was not much he could do. He had tried to threaten Lakshmi Bai and her family, but they were not willing to budge. They would go to any lengths to ensure their land was not taken away from them. Gurappa had tried his best. He had sent rowdies to the family. He had tried to kidnap some of them, but nothing had worked. Gurappa was a religious man. He believed in the power of manipulating spirits and found a witchcraft practitioner.
So to ensure that our party will win this land dispute, ಅವನು ಏನು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾನೆ, ಅವನು ಧರ್ಮನಾಗೆ ಅವನು ಕಾಂಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾನೆ. ಅವನು ಸ್ವಾಮಿ ಥರ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ. ಅವನು ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾತಮಂತ್ರ ಅವನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ ಮತ್ತು ಅವನ ಮಾತಮಂತ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ನಂಬಿಕೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇದೆ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಪಬ್ಲಿಕ್. ಸೊ ಗುರುಪ್ಪ ಅವನು ಧರ್ಮನ ಅವನು ಕಾಂಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾನೆ. ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಮತ ಮಂತ್ರ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಂತ ನೀವು ಎನ್ಶ್ಯೂರ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಇದು ಹೊಲ ಪಕ್ಕ ನನ್ನ ಪಾರ್ಟಿಗೆ ಹೋಗಬೇಕು, ಇದು ಆಪೋಸಿಟ್ ಪಾರ್ಟಿಗೆ ಯಾವುದು ನೀವು ಮಾಡಿಸಿ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಯಾವುದು ಆಗಬೇಕು ಅಂತ. ಆವಾಗ ಮತ್ತೆ ಅಗ್ರಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ, ಮತ್ತು 50,000 ಅಗ್ರಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ.
This man is Dharmappa. Dharmappa is a renowned quack in the region. He is said to have performed several rituals to help people win cases. Gurappa approached Dharmappa. He offered to pay him 10,000 rupees to perform voodoo on Lakshmi Bai and her family. Dharmappa had used all his knowledge to do what Gurappa expected of him. He was not successful in his endeavor. Now Gurappa was disappointed. He was a retired man now. 50,000 rupees was too valuable for him to just let go of it. So he threatened Dharmappa. Now he told him that he had paid him 10,000 rupees and had failed to execute his objective. Dharmappa offered to pay Gurappa back, but Gurappa had other plans. Gurappa planned to sacrifice someone and incriminate Lakshmi Bai and her family so they go to jail and lose the case. Yes, it was Gurappa's plan to sacrifice a man. That is when they found Chandrappa. Yes, the victim in our story is Chandrappa. Chandrappa was a homeless man. He used to beg along the temples in Hassan and live on the streets. The cop was sure no one would be interested in finding Chandrappa and decided that he was going to be sacrificed. But he wasn't going to do the dirty work either. He wanted Dharmappa to do it. Dharmappa had no choice. He knew the retired cop still had enough contacts to do in his business and life if he did not comply, so he agreed to help Gurappa. The two killers called Chandrappa to an isolated spot. They promised to buy him food and beverages. But when they got to the spot, the two men thrashed him up. Then they bludgeoned his head with a rock. They ensured Chandrapa's face was unrecognizable. They did not want to take any risk, so they even burnt his face. After they had completed their objective, Gurappa asked Dharmappa to write the names of Lakshmi Bai and her family on the hands of Chandrappa. Dharmappa had done as he was told to. Dharmappa trusted Gurappa to know all the protocols of investigations. Gurappa was smart to mislead the cops too. But the Kalaburgi cops had taken up the case as a challenge and worked overtime to ensure they had cracked the case. They had found out that Gurappa was the suspect. They brought him in for questioning. Gurappa knew the procedure well, but the cops knew how to break him and get a confession. The cops managed to get a confession from him, arrested Dharmappa and got a confession from him too. The cops conducted an inquest at the crime scene. They have enough evidence to prove that the two of them committed the murder.
ಆ ದಿವಸ ಗುರುಪ್ಪ ಅವನು ಧರ್ಮನಿಗೆ 10,000 ದುಡ್ಡು ಅವನು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾನೆ. ಸೊ ಈಗ 1 ವೀಕ್ 2 ವೀಕ್ಸ್ 3 ವೀಕ್ಸ್ ನಂತರ ಕೂಡ ಈ ಆಪೋಸಿಟ್ ಪಾರ್ಟಿಗೆ ಏನೂ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಒಂದು ದಿವಸ ಗುರುಪ್ಪ ಅವನು ಧರ್ಮನಿಗೆ ಅವನು ಕಾಲ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾನೆ, ಯಾಕೆ ನೋಡ್ರಿ ಈ ಥರ ಅಂದರೆ ಆ ಆಪೋಸಿಟ್ ಪಾರ್ಟಿಗೆ ಏನೂ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ, ನಾನು ನಿಮಗೆ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ದುಡ್ಡು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀನಿ, ನಾನು ದುಡ್ಡು ವಾಪಸ್ ಕೊಡಿ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಆವಾಗಿಂದ ಮತ್ತು ಇಬ್ಬರು ಈ ಥರ ಪ್ಲ್ಯಾನಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಆಯಿತು, ಇದು ಮಂತ್ರದಿಂದ ಇದು ಏನೂ ಆಗಲ್ಲ, ನಾವು ಮರ್ಡರ್ ಮಾಡೋಣ ಅಂತ ಹಾಗೆ ಪ್ಲ್ಯಾನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಮತ್ತು ಚಾನ್ಸೆಟ್ಗೆ ಮರ್ಡರ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ.
The cops have also declared that neither Lakshmi Bai nor her sister were involved in the murder conspiracy. The cops have been successful in cracking the case. But what is most shocking is that a retired police constable was the killer, and all because of 50,000 rupees. He was smart to mislead the cops, but he couldn't go on forever without getting caught. Sanjay for News 9, Kalaburgi.